thinking about it.
Thank you so much. Until we are settled.
The Accountant General of the Federation brief Council on the updates on the following accounts. The balances in the following account as at April 2025. The Natural Resources Development account, the balance as at April 2025 stood at 72 billion 858 million 962,913 kobo, naira, and 29 kobo. Stabilization account stood at 63 billion 535 million 835 786.60, while the balance in the excess crude account ECA, which is domiciled in dollars, is 473 754.57. Thank you.
On the technical and vocational education called TVET, having a partnership now, an initiative with the Federal Ministry of Education. The TVET and Federal Ministry of Education came up with the initiative of technical and vocational education for our youth, so that our youth will have skill acquisition in the various sectors. The minister has already identified all the various technical schools owned by the federal government, and they have worked on equipping the schools, and they are working now on ensuring that there are enough technical teachers in order for the program to be successful. So the minister was asking council and all the members of council, especially the state governors, to also participate in this new initiative, so that now we will continue to reduce unemployment, because once people acquire skills, whether it is in the area of welding or in the area of carpentry, fabrication, ICT, and all these various technical skills, then once trained, they are no longer people looking for jobs in the market. They become employers of labor. So the whole idea is to create skills among our youth and to ensure that our youth become employers of labor. So that's the initiative, and the board, the council, was actually very excited about this initiative and commended both the ministry as well as the technical vocational education, TVET, as well as MBTE, because all the three are working together to ensure that we go in that direction. Thank you very much.
A representation from the members and leadership of Cotton, Textile and Garment Development Forum. These are private sectors who are into cotton business, garment and textiles. And the presentation highlighted their proposal on how to revitalize the cotton industry in Nigeria, and proposed the idea of setting up a regulatory board to ensure that that sector is once more stimulated. The presentation highlighted the potentials of developing cotton business in Nigeria and the prospects of using it as part of the economic stimulus package of the federal government. So Council noted and considered their prayers, which are, among other things, is the establishment of a Cotton, Textile and Garment Development Board as the regulatory body for cotton, textiles, and garment Factory Regulatory Authority. And Council considered that to make it more functional, that their proposal for a public-private partnership where government will partner with the private sector to put this sector back to order, and that whoever that will be the chairman will come from the private sector, and the body should be funded from the textile import levy currently being collected by Nigerian Customs. So Council endorsed the presentation and approved the establishment of a national office and regional offices in each of the 6 geopolitical zones for proper coordination and recovery of the cotton and textile industry in Nigeria. Thank you.
Council received today a presentation from the Honorable Minister for Livestock Development and Growth, and his presentation has to be dealing with on the strategies of accelerated livestock growth. And he had a plan of doing that from now up until even 2030. And the strategy is built on the National Livestock Growth Acceleration Strategy, which refines and extends it to transform the sector into an international jobs, wealth creation, exports, and internally generated revenue engine room. The presentation projected that the strategy will build up to 74 billion down to $90 billion in that sector by the year 2035. In direct partnership with the subnationals, the state governors, and the private sector and foreign investors under a very sound federal regulatory umbrella. And this investment will be prioritized into 5 key pillars between now 2025 and 2026. And one of it is the animal health and zones control. The second is the feed and fodder development. The third is the water resources management. The fourth is the statistics and information. And finally, breed improvement, that's livestock value chain development. Council considered the presentation and the prayers. One of the prayers is to formally endorse the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development's inheritance of the NLTP, its strategic priorities, and associated with the implementing of the assets, and several others, including to partner with the private sector and the state governments, as I've already talked about, and work with various international bodies to ensure that livestock is improved, and partner with the already existing system. And therefore, Council resolved that after going through the presentation, Council endorsed the key recommendations of the presentation, especially the focus on addressing the crisis fueled by the current system of animal husbandry in the country. And this is not strange to us. Just very recently, we are all aware of what has been happening, particularly the so-called farmers' herders clash. Council also urged the active participation of the subnationals and the private sector in operationalizing the priorities of the ministry's presentation on modern livestock production. Council emphasized the fact that we cannot continue to live in the past, and we must now work towards modernizing livestock production in Nigeria. Thank you.
Today, during the National Economic Council, the coordinator of the Presidential Food Systems Coordinating Unit and also the country director of FGV Brazil made presentations to Council on two key initiatives. One of the initiatives was the adoption of the National Agribusiness Policy Mechanism that was adopted in the National Agricultural Council that was held in November 2024 in Calabar, and also the presentation of the Green Imperative Project, which is a $1.1 billion initiative and a collaboration between FGV of Brazil and the federal government and also the subnationals. This initiative is an arrangement where each and every locality will be impacted across the country on agribusiness, from production to aggregation to processing and also marketing in all facets of agriculture, whether it is in form of livestock, in forms of food production, in forms of fisheries, poultry, and so on and so forth. So it is actually anchored under the Office of the Vice President, under the Presidential Food Systems Coordinating Unit, which is a unit that also has subnational representation, and also all other ministries like Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Marine and Blue Economy, Livestock Development, Finance, National Planning and Economic Planning, Budget and Economic Planning, and so on and so on, water resources. So, but the Secretariat of the Food Systems and Coordinating Secretariat will be under the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. Council received both recommendation and also considered the following prayers: to acknowledge the GIP setting up regional offices across the 6 geopolitical zones, and also to endorse the regional offices of the Green Imperative across those states, and the states are also encouraged to participate, because what this seeks to do is to catalyze. The $1.1 billion is to draw up core investments, private sector driven, from all other investment promotions. Like for instance, even in the second phase, there is the interest developed by the Islamic Development Bank to the tune of $4.5 billion to catalyze the setting up of all agribusinesses in all the local governments and states across the country. Council was also considered to acknowledge to the National Agribusiness Policy Mechanism, as it was, like I said, approved by the National Council on Agriculture, and also request to prepare for its official launch for 7th May 2025. You may recall that the GIP agreement was signed on the sidelines of the G20 in Brazil in November 2024, where the Permanent Secretary of Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security signed that agreement, and also subsequently on March 18, 2025, when the FGV of Brazil came and signed the MOU. And we believe also that the Vice President of Brazil will soon be here, will visit the country, where the formal launching of the Green Imperative will take place. So after those deliberations, Council approved the prayers and sought in the presentation particularly the establishment of the Green Imperative project, national office in Abuja and regional offices across the 6 political zones, and to support also the formal launch of the National Agribusiness Policy Mechanism. Thank you very much.
State police was part of our agenda today, but unfortunately, because of time demands, and after a very long, we have been there for a very long time now, the presentations were unable to get to that bit of it. So I can assure you that in our next meeting, that issue will be exhaustively discussed. Thank you.
Perhaps you will realize that NLTP was actually a program owned by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and the government of Netherlands. And during that event, you do know that a lot of other diplomats joined for the success of the event. The training was carried out, but unfortunately, the NLTP had some challenges taken up, and that's why no other state after Nasarawa was commissioned, because there were some take-off challenges because of the funding of the program between the government of Netherlands and the Ministry of Agriculture. That actually continued until we had elections in 2023. And after the elections, now we have a different program that is being promoted under this minister that made the presentation today. But I'm happy to tell you that the ministers were informed about this. Professor Jega, who also happens to be the chancellor of Nasarawa State University, had several meetings with us, and we briefed him about that particular program. The encroachment on the land that you are referring to is really not an encroachment. What happened was that if you allow land of that nature to stay idle, you will have several problems being able to cultivate that land again. So for that reason, the communities were allowed, because it was a ranch that was selected. So the communities who used to farm there were now allowed to go back and carry out their farming activities in that particular area. And all those that have been trained, it didn't go down as a waste, because a lot of them have gone to programs of the Ruga projects, and they are also training other herders to continue with that particular program. So that is what happened.
As a follow-up to the NLTP, the ministry is looking at that sector, as I said, being modernized. But more importantly, emphasis is placed on cattle ranching and peace building. And we believe that the ministry's presentation on cattle ranching is a modern solution to the issues of farmers-herders clashes. Thank you.